Good morning. How we doing today? My name is James Sweeney, aka SplitSuit. Welcome back to another video. And today we're going to answer a question sent in by Ron, and Ron asks the following. Hi James, I still don't know what to do if I can't reach my target SPR preflop, such as when I'm holding aces. I constantly overplay big pocket pairs, adding to big losses when I'm outflopped. Thanks for your help. So to make sure we're all on the same page, let's quickly define SPR and target SPR, at least in the sense that Ron probably intends it to be used. So SPR simply stands for stack to pot ratio, and the formula is effective stack size divided by pot size. This is a number that I calculate on the flop. I do not recalculate this on turns or rivers. I use this primarily as a flop metric to say, hey, how automatically committed or not automatically committed to a pot am I? And this is especially useful when you have things like top pair, over pairs, big draws, those kind of things. So the way that I look at SPR is I look at it as kind of three different zones. So we have our 0 to 3, which is a very, very small SPR, right? This is going to be one where we don't have a lot of playability left. There's not that much stack left to go. And in these, I'm going to be very, very automatically committed with things like over pairs, again, using that aces that Ron gave in the example. When we get into the gray zone between 3 and 6 SPR, now all of a sudden I have to use a little bit more discretion. So if my opponent is a little bit fishier, then SPR is closer to 3.5, then yeah, I'm probably definitely going to be taking over pairs to the felt. But if we're notching a little closer towards 6 SPR, my opponent's a little bit better, the board is less favorable, now maybe I don't necessarily stack every single overpair. And as we start to get into the 7 plus SPR range, well now we're not automatically committed at all. Doesn't mean I won't take a single pair to the felt like aces. Doesn't mean I won't try to go for 3 huge streets of value against a weak opponent, but I'm not automatically committed. And that's the biggest factor here, is how automatically committed or not automatically committed are we? Now, when Ron is talking about a target SPR with aces, he's really looking at something that's very, very automatic, very, very simple, and probably something in the 0 to 3 SPR pot. But is this something that we're really going to be able to do? And if we're trying to get this target SPR, are we creating a worse situation for ourselves? So let's think about that for a moment. Now, the issue becomes very apparent when we do some very simple calculations. Say we're playing cash games and we're playing 100 big blinds deep, and let's say one person opens to 3 big blinds and they go heads up to the flop. We have what? About a 14 SPR in that point. Okay, well that's nowhere close to that super small mindless 0 to 3 SPR. And even if we take a much larger open raise size, say we're playing live 1-2, right? And the standard open of that table might be 12 bucks. Well, that's great, but even still, in a heads-up pot going to the flop, we're looking at an SPR of about 7. So again, nowhere close to that super easy mindless SPR between 0 to 3, but super, super common nonetheless. Now, it should be pretty obvious that in a 3 or 4 bet pot, things get very, very easy, right? Simply because we're going to shrink that SPR very, very quickly in a 3 to 4 bet pot, and whether we're the ones that are playing aces aggressively in this spot or calling a 3 or a 4 bet with aces in this spot, we're talking about an SPR that's pretty darn small, pretty darn easy, pretty darn automatically committed. That's kind of going to be that target with aces. But in the single raise pots, in non-shallow games, we're just really not going to be able to do anything about it. We have a lot more control in 3 and 4 bet pots. We have a lot more control even in shallow games. But when we're talking about non-shallow games, single raise pots, there's just not much you can do about it. And you have to get comfortable with that, which means 2 things. So number 1 is you have to improve your hand reading skills, especially in single raise pots. You have to know when you can go for deep value with something like aces. You have to know when you need to slow down a little bit. You need to be able to figure out when you can get extra value, how you can get extra value, and there's going to be a lot of skills wrapped into that. And that brings us to number 2, which is just generally improving your post-flop skills. Knowing when you can get away from overpairs, when you can get a lot more value with your overpairs, and how you can just really play out more often on a variety of textures, in and out of position, since again, you're just really not going to be able to create this target SPR, even with aces, just in a lot of situations. Unless we're talking about 3, 4, 5 bet wars, or we're talking about more shallow games, it's just not going to happen. And I'm not saying this to be a hard ass, it's just you got to get better here. Because if you're just trying to create this target SPR with aces, you're going to really, really screw yourself and miss a tremendous amount of value. And this is just because think about what would happen if you try to hit a target SPR in a single raise pot even with aces, right? What are you going to end up doing preflop? raising to something like 25 big blinds to create a target SPR if you get action, like that's not super good. And even worse when you have something like kings, and maybe by opening to that size you then only get action from hands that are slightly better than yours, say aces, right? And you're allowing everything else to either play really, really perfectly or figure out exactly where you are, all in the name of trying to create a target SPR that, again, you can make a lot more profit by taking a different line. I know it's going to require a little bit more post-flop prowess, and you're definitely going to have to make some very serious improvements to your overall game, but it's going to make you a much better player rather than just trying to smash a target SPR, making it very obvious where you're at and allowing your opponents to really make pretty darn easy decisions. Even bad players can make pretty darn easy decisions if you're just constantly mashing really, really huge only with your monsters trying to hit this target SPR. Don't fall for this trick. Please, please, please get better rather than trying to force these super large things. And it's not to say you can't find spots where you can make really, really atypically large sizes preflop, even in open raises, but just in general, be very, very careful. Sometimes you just can't hit a target SPR. You have to get comfortable with that, and that's okay. Honestly, that's a function of playing with stacks that are really deeper than 20 or 25 big blinds. This is going to come up more and more, so you need to be more and more comfortable and prepared for it. Now, if you want to continue working on your post-flop game, especially in single raise pots, especially when there's a deep SPR to contend with, I would definitely suggest checking out my book, Optimizing Ace-King. And yes, I know the original question was about aces, but let's be honest, Ace-King is one of the strongest possible starting hands you can be dealt, and if you can improve your play with this hand, it's going to help you across the board with a lot of other hand types as well. This book talks about playing gut shots, talks about playing one pair hands, talks about playing turns and rivers, talks about playing air, and everything in between. This is massively going to help you wrap your head around post-flop play in general and help you feel more confident when you can't hit a target SPR pre-flop and rather have to make plays post-flop. This is going to be incredibly, incredibly helpful. Again, the book is called Optimizing Ace-King. It's available on Amazon, Audible, and also on my site. You can go to splitsuit.com/AK, short for Ace-King, to check it out today. Again, that's Optimizing Ace-King. Check it out today and use the code YouTube at checkout to save $10 if you buy it through my site. So Ron, hopefully this helps point you in the right direction. Again, target SPRs are great, but it's going to be something we can hit more often in shallow games or in 3 and 4 bet pots. It's not something we're going to be able to hit as regularly in 100 big blind stack depth and single raise pots. So the point isn't to try to just mindlessly bash out these target SPRs with aces, rather to make sure that we improve our post-flop games. That way we're prepared to handle 200 big blind stack depth, 300 big blind stack depth, etc., and not getting stuck in just playing really, really well in super shallow games and really starting to deteriorate and fall apart as soon as we get any sort of stack depth whatsoever. And even more so if we're starting to talk about playing in tougher games, right? Tougher games are going to have to learn how to play deeper SPR pods, so it's better that you start working on that now rather than saving it all till later. So hopefully this helps. If you have any comments or questions, please don't hesitate to leave a comment down below. And of course, if you wouldn't mind liking and subscribing, that would be great as well. Again, if you need anything, let me know. Otherwise, as always, good luck out there and happy grinding. Well, maybe I don't necessarily automatically stack them every single time.